Welcome to the Feminae Christi Podcast, a labor of universal love in service to restoring the divine feminine principle spoken through wisdom, eternal love, and devotion to immaculate truth. I'm your host, Salwa, here in sacred devotion to walking this journey with you, not from a place of above or below, but from within. Hi, welcome to the Feminae Christi Podcast, episode 6. I'm going to give my spiel super quick because I'm honestly tired of hearing myself say it. But 1, these episodes are created to build on each other. So sequential order when watching will allow you to receive deeper. 2, there is energetic transmissions going on. I open up a field and an energetic container for this podcast, which is truly so much more. So just know that, first of all, if you watch episode 1, you'll understand the principalities behind these episodes. But 2, you are receiving more than just the spoken message. And if you watch in sequential order, it opens you up to receive the message deeper each time. 3, you can watch on video, on Spotify, YouTube, and you can listen on all podcast platforms. Whew, oh my God, I'm getting really good at that. I should have just put all that in my intro, but that's okay. So today, I am recording a bit of a bonus episode that is adding to the message that was shared on episode 5. I got a lot of beautiful feedback from episode 5, and I got some amazing questions sent my way. I will say this, I am not going to share the questions per se. I'm not going to share the listeners that sent their questions, but I am going to pick up on the patterns of the questions and from those pull the ones that I feel are going to serve the collective more. And I'm going to weave that into my episode today because I felt strongly that there is more to be shared around this. Now, episode 5 was exposing lust to light. And I talked a lot about life force energy, about lust, how to identify it. And at the beginning of the episode, you might think, oh, this is for lusty men, right? Sorry, men. But I think that's where in the beginning you kind of start to think that it goes. But as you go into the episode, I introduced the lust archetypes, how they showed up, and also how to heal your womb if you have been in the receiving end of lust. But the most beautiful thing and why I love my women listeners out there is because women also spoke up to me and let me know I found myself on both sides of these archetypes. And I want to say this. First of all, yes, because if I am sharing an archetype, in my example, it was given to me to share as the lust boy archetype because that is how it most commonly shows up. But the act of knowing, I have been on the masculine side of this, meaning that I have served this type of lust to others. You can have that as a woman. And the act of knowing that I have been on the feminine side of this, meaning that I have been on the receiving end of this lust archetype. It's such a beautiful self-awareness, and it just allows you to understand that there's this balance here where we play roles depending on how we incarnate. However, we are not susceptible to falling on the other side of it, meaning that at one point we might be giving something, at one point we might be receiving it, and we are all here to be sacred mirrors to each other to further understand how to show up better. So I have a bit of a inner LOLness going on right now because I know how I would want to dive into this message, but I also know how I probably should not dive into this message, especially because, of course, now my mom starts following me on Instagram. I'm like, great, the past decade, nah. And all of a sudden you're really going to show up here now that I'm talking about this, but it has to be spoken on. So last week, talked about lust, really delved into that and what it means. I encourage you to watch that episode at least if you can before diving into this one. You don't have to go to the very beginning for this one to land, but I think it will be helpful for you to watch 5, then 6. Lust obviously was defined, and I talked a lot about life force energy and how not to use it. But as I receive these questions, I am in full understanding that I don't want to be the buzzkill that tells you how not to use it, how not to do it. I also want to tell you how to, and not that I'm going to sit here and give you this course on sacred sexuality, but to touch on it felt really aligned and felt really, really supported. Sexuality is something that is shamed often and is such a sacred energy that to understand it as that is so important. But at first we have to liberate. We have to have the energy free enough to come out and be birthed in a sacred light. So what is it about lust that makes it not of the light? It's the fact that it does not support you seeing the divine in the other. It is strictly a carnal pleasure, meaning that you have urges, it's physical, and you're lusting. it bypasses a step that is so important, that if you are going to be in physical intimacy with somebody, it is an act of lovemaking and union that is supporting you seeing the divine in the other. Now, I'm going to touch on this because it came up from a couple of different people. How does lust and self-pleasure relate? Can you self-pleasure and it's not lust? Because you're not really connecting with other. I could see how that question would come up. Lust is a desire for sex, and we have this carnal pleasure for someone, but also within ourselves, we have these urges, these desires, and it's our job to understand them and make them holy. But can self-pleasure be sacred? Can self-pleasure be free of lust? The answer to that is abso-fucking-lutely it can be. And I want you to know that if you are sitting at home and you heard that episode and you're wondering, can I self-pleasure? Am I lusty? Can I have my toys? Am I lusty? Let's really remove all those questions and let's strip it back to one thing, okay? If life force energy is sacred, and that is how we create, of course it's sacred. But what you want to always be creating more of and infusing in your field is the emotional frequency that supports divinity. Now, I know that you are not going to self-pleasure and imagine yourself at like a silent retreat and think that that is erotic enough to attain that energy doing what you are more than likely wanting it to do. Takes a little more than that, right? Nobody's thinking about Buddha when they self-pleasure. I don't think. If you are, hey, I am so happy for you. Like, I'm going to take notes. But for the most part, how do you have erotic, playful pleasure and still make it sacred? How can you have divinity in self-pleasure? That is what we're going to talk about in this first question. When it comes to the toys, that is secondary. That is a tool. That is an instrument. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that toys are of the dark because I don't think it's the toy. It's how you use it. Much like a person, you can be with another human and they're not necessarily of the light or dark. They're a partner that you're going to be with. It's how you interact with them, what you bring into your field. So it all comes down to the very first most important thing, the emotional frequency that this interaction is bringing out within you. Are you able to have all your merch, your self-pleasure merch, and still be able to tap into an emotional frequency that supports you feeling some sort of love frequency and some sort of union frequency? And I'm not talking about union with a toy. I'm talking union with a higher orchestrating hand. I'm talking about union with divinity, with your divinity within. Self-pleasuring is a beautiful way to connect with that and work on these energies. But the most important thing is that you do not try to overcompensate not having somebody stimulating you by stimulating yourself with cheap tricks that allow there to be a whole lot of bypassing just to get to the big bang at the end and then feel depleted. And that energy was used not consciously. At the same time, I feel like it would be too much to think that every time you want to self-pleasure or be with someone, it has to have this intention and this ask of the divine, because ultimately what we are all here to do is grow closer to God. What that life force energy is here to do is grow us closer to God. That is why it is meant to travel up. But it is also a union of our inner feminine and masculine. So if you're on your own and this is a one-person show, okay, great. You have toy, you have no toy, whatever. I will say this, there are advanced ways to work with that energy where you don't need the toy. You become the vibrator. We're all here to just become vibrators. We're just one big vibrator making our way back to source. So you working with that energy and vibrating it where you want it to go is one thing, but that is a whole other practice that can be attained and worked through Tantra. And the mindset around that is that you're also strengthening your Ka energetic body. And that is a whole other thing that I don't necessarily think everybody needs to go into right now. But the principle of emotional frequency. What is the emotional frequency that comes into play? And if you can connect to some sort of union that is whole within your mind, I'm not going to give you examples. I am just going to say that don't bring anything into your mind that if it was actually occurring in your space, you would feel very differently, because that is separation. If you were actually in the physical manifestation of that thought, would you actually be happy? Or is it so out there that it is creating this illusion within you that it's something you want when truly you don't want that? just to feel like you can get excited. Because remember, excited energy is also on the polarity, it's fear. So a lot of times the things that you think are exciting to you are actually like a fear that you would not want to happen. That's where you need to be mindful. That's where you need to be careful. So the thoughts that you are bringing, how do they carry some sort of union? Now, furthermore, if you want to really start playing with that energy in a way that works for you in a bigger creative fashion, you can introduce an intention and you can start to really feel and breathe the energy up through the light centers, root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown. Like you really start to breathe it through all the light centers. And now this takes a lot of practice. And maybe on your first try, you're simply going to breathe it up from your lower chakras and get it around your solar plexus and have some sort of feeling around your belly button. And then you're going to be like really proud of yourself and then go back to play. That's fine. At least you're being conscious. If you want to bring out your self-pleasure merch and know, okay, I am going to use these as tools, but my focus is not going to be so much on all tactile. It's going to be on the energy within, but I need support from tools to be able to do that. However, it's not about the tools. You can bring the focus somewhere else. If you can think of something that you love, something that turns on the heart center, great. If you can also understand that joy is of the heart. So playfulness is welcome. I don't want anybody to go around thinking that now to be physically intimate with their partner, they can't bring out the fun outfits and they can't light the candles and have like fun music and do your raunchy strip dance if they're into that. I'm just throwing stuff out there, okay? If that is the energy of joy and play, and that's how you connect, that's beautiful. What you don't want to do is disassociate from who you really are. What you don't want to do is disassociate your partner from who they really are. You cannot come into union with God if you are not in union with self and in authentic union with other. So the minute that the imagination starts displacing either you into a situation, person, place, or thing that you are not or don't want to be, or put you in a state of imagining you're with somebody else that you don't necessarily want to be, or you are introducing more energies into your bed, whether imaginary or not, like all of a sudden in your bed, there's an orgy going on, but your spouse is just trying to connect with you. You have now invited outside energy. So you are going in the opposite direction of union. There's more fragmentation. There's so much of you that has to go around now, and you're not even really fully in there. So outside introductions, whether it's through merch, through outfits, through whatever, is it creating a disassociation of self and of partner? Or is it somehow working for you to playfully connect more with self? I encourage you to sit with that question because that can go two very different directions. So at this point, we're not shunning the sexy lingerie. It's what that is prompting you to think of, to imagine, to become that really matters. With the self-pleasure merch, calling it merch, is this thing turning you into just a physical, carnal, pleasure-pleasing thing? Or is it a tool that is helping you to further stimulate energy that you can then associate with light centers and just be light in your thoughts, knowing that, okay, my mind's going to go somewhere. I don't always want to be thinking about what I'm creating with this energy, but how can it at least introduce something that helps me return to self, something that helps me return to connection and turn the heart on? Like I said in my last episode, heart on. And, for women, the heart on as well. And sometimes when women are on their own, they can go into this polarity thinking where I don't want to think about what's missing here because I want to be with a partner. So I'm just going to take it so far out there so that this just becomes sexual because there's no intimacy here because I'm alone. And if I sit with intimacy, then I start feeling the missing instead of what's here. Well, that's going to work against you. Now, if you can start to call in the energy of your partner, that is very potent and that is beautiful. I have done that before. In past relationship, I called them in through doing some tantra work and you better believe they showed up and I knew the energy. I'm like, oh yeah, I called you. This is great. What else are we going to call in? But it's very important to know and to understand the distinction of, is this thought, is this toy, is this scenario in my mind disassociating me from self or bringing me back to self? Am I allowed to be here? Am I welcome in this orgy? Am I welcome in this visual? Is this vision bringing me closer to God? Does not always have to be so deep that you are going to commune with God directly. But you have to remember that God energy is source energy, it's love energy, it's truth. And so as long as the heart can find union with self to some capacity, it is bringing you closer to God. And it is a union practice as opposed to a separation practice. Separation leads to a lot of pain. So if you are constantly self-pleasuring and bringing things into your space, whether through vision or through physical toys that enable you to disassociate from what you truly want, then you're actually hurting yourself. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And it is okay to allow there to be an element of play. Now, we can go so much deeper into that, but this episode is just a little bonus episode to shed some light on the fact that sexual energy can be sacred, pleasure can be sacred, but it is about always bringing it back to how does my thoughts, my actions, my accessories that I'm working with, how do those not create disassociation, but unity within and without? If you can do that, you have room to play. Now, I do want to touch on how this evolution that we're in has ushered in a sexual revolution where women want to be more free and they put out their sexuality. And I'm not judging anybody for putting out their sexuality. I want them to be aware of how much might be too much and how it serves. So how do you know if your sexual expression is disassociating from you? Or furthermore, it is being used to lust in audiences, or if it's true, healthy expression. I believe that divinity is sexy. I want women to be free. I love to dance. I have a video of doing like a heels dance on my chair. I love it. I think it's sexy. It's sexy in a way that's comfortable and classy to me. I've shared photos before at the beach, and I've never once thought, oh my gosh, I'm in a swimsuit. The people are going to think I'm like kind of a hoe. Like, it doesn't even cross my mind. But I know that there's women that are waiting to see anything to be like, oh, she's showing too much. And sometimes it's this judgment that comes because you feel self-conscious to share the same. But there is a threshold. How do we know that we're not passing the threshold of over-sexualizing ourselves to prove that we're free? I think the biggest question to ask around that is, are you actually free if you overexpose? Because if we truly know that we possess something, we don't need to show it for validation. If we need to be validated in the showing of it, then we're not free. We're still waiting to be told that we are enough. We're still waiting to be witnessed. The desire to be witnessed in an essence that is in you shows that you have not fully and truly embodied it. Can you be witnessed? Yes, it's beautiful to be witnessed, but striving to be witnessed and striving to be validated in the witnessing puts you outside of the embodiment. So if you are feeling yourself today and you want to wear the sexy outfit and you want to be moving around and dancing sexily, that's great, but do it as if nobody was going to care. It was going to be crickets. And could you still own that? Could you feel good about it? Does it actually put you in your power? Or have you now put it out for display to a point where you are waiting to see if other people agree that this is what freedom and truth looks like? You're waiting for that validation. You're not free and you're not in your truth. If you feel so good and this is a video, this is a post, this is something that I feel sexy and like myself and I'm so free that I'll put it out there and really not care if crickets come back, then great. Everybody's threshold is going to be different. And I believe in authentic expression through dance, through fashion, through spiritual work. There is things that I know I have very clear boundaries that I would never personally put out there on social. Public display of energy work is one of them. I don't put my energy work out there. Could it impress some folks? Probably, but I'm not here to impress anybody. I know the power that the gifts possess and I embody them and I put them to work. So over-sexualizing ourselves to prove that we're free actually at times shows that we're still enslaved by it. Because freedom is an embodiment. Freedom shows in how you show up. And you might be sharing yourself in a suit, talking on stage, but that freedom is sexy and that Shakti energy will be popping. But the Shakti energy cannot pop if we are still feeling and waiting to be validated. The Shakti energy cannot be out there popping, creating that magnetic bubble that really magnetizes everything that we want in this life and that is ours to create with. That energy is actually more blocked when we are trying to be out there saying, hey, look at me, ask me about my Shakti. So that's kind of that thirsty energy. And thirsty content, well, we can see right through that. Or I can. I don't know about you guys. thirsty for validation, thirsty for whatever, that is when you know that perhaps you're not as free as you want. So over-sexualizing your content to prove that you're free is actually saying, I'm thirsty, please give me water. Where can I go find a well to drink at? And Yeshua's like, I told you, drink from my well and I got you. So hey, go within and drink from the Feminae Christi within and know that your sacred sexuality will just exude everywhere you go, regardless of how you show up, because it's an inner sacred union. Another great question and topic that came up in different wordings from listeners about last week's episode was about past doings. How do I rectify further if I have been the lusty archetype and done wrong, whether it's through cheating on my partner, whether it's through using someone, been the victim and fallen into affairs, all these things. Pass. I'm going to say this because I want everybody to move through things quickly. I'm not here to create course and deep work for everything and like put you through the ringer. I want you to understand the power of your awareness and how you can reclaim your energy very quickly if you have the power of awareness. So having the power of awareness that you feel like you were in wrong use of energy at some point. And that's what righteousness is. Righteousness is not that you're perfect and you do everything right all the time. It's understanding right use of energy and wrong use of energy. So to be righteous is to understand that you are here to use right use of energy. And if you were acting out of alignment with your highest truth, which is essentially sin, then you were not in right use of energy because you were sinning against yourself. Sin is against ourselves when we act out of our highest alignment to truth. So as soon as you have that knowing, and you know the action that took to get there, and furthermore, if you can connect to the energy center that was being depleted in the wrongdoing, you can rectify it with a redemption act of sorts. It's an acknowledgement. You can do a soul letter, asking your soul to forgive itself, to release whatever shame it carries, really connecting with the light center that maybe was acting out of alignment with its highest truth. Therefore, it began to pick up energy of distortion. And the redemption process is really bringing into balance and righteous use of energy that which was out of alignment, that which was in the state of sin, which sin is distortion from your highest truth. So redeem that energy and then watch yourself be tested. After redemption, we can have a lot of tests. As soon as we know, hey, that is not right use of energy. I really should not respond that way. I really should not engage in that way. Watch yourself with that awareness, catch the test, and know that it is time to show up different and better. And that is when the tests are ushered in to give you an opportunity to show that you know better and to start redeeming the energy back into balance and restoration with your highest truth. And that is your own act of redeeming and forgiveness and restoring the grace. And when all our inner light centers are in full harmony with our highest truth, we restore the grace within us. And then we walk in that grace and we acknowledge when it's being tested. And in our full embodiment, we can pass the test. And just because you're doing all this work and raising your frequency doesn't mean that the tests are not going to show up. You evolve into a higher frequency, meaning that when the tests show up, you can catch yourself in it faster. You can restore the grace in it faster, go through the redemption and restoring of the grace faster, and be back in your light faster. You're a higher frequency being. That doesn't mean that you are out of this human suit where the tests are still going to be showing up as part of the human condition. So don't add shame, just restore it. If you found yourself lusting a move, catch yourself, redeem the action by acknowledging why it was out of alignment, how it was in wrong use of energy, how to make it righteous, and to realign it to be in state of harmony with your highest truth. Walk in grace, walk in your light, and move on. Be free. Don't enslave yourself further, because wisdom is that awareness put to action. Until you put it to action, it's just a knowing that's kind of floating out there and reminding you, but it is up to you to take action on the knowing and become a more evolved, light embodied being. Now, a third thing I'm going to touch on, and I'm going to keep this one really brief, you guys, because I know I have some very curious listeners around this. Somebody asked me, you are in devotion to union with Christ. Does that mean that you don't have sex? Am I really going to answer this? So I don't, not in the way you have sex, but I promise you that celibate life, when you have mastered that energy and that inner Kundalini rise in full union with the divine, is not lacking any fun time. But that is energy. Physical intimacy is not something I partake in with other. No. However, that inner union, that life force energy being properly activated and risen through every light center for the purpose of higher union and co-creation with God and being in that full inner union with my masculine Christ principle, that is all very active. Thank you very much. It is great. If I could teach it to the world, I would, but then I think everybody would be done with physical relationships. And I also think that those serve for the majority, but it is so not a place of lack. It is a place of higher union. And I think that is the best way to leave it. Because my deepest holy desire for this episode is just to allow you to understand that the play is welcome, but that it is all leading back to a state of union in some capacity and that your heart is on. Now, somebody asked, is pornography always bad? I mean, I don't like words good, bad. I'm doing that whole like evolved person talk. But yes, you are watching a film. You're watching something be acted in front of you. What is that doing? That is taking you outside yourself. You're disassociating. You are now a character in their movie or they're a character in yours. You are now seeing an illusion of exciting erotic behavior that is not real. Nothing in pornography is bringing you closer to your truth. It is disassociating from your truth in a way to be a cheat sheet to an action that is going to deplete you in the end. So I would say that pornography is never okay. And if you're in the pornography business, find another job. It's never too late. Find another job. That is an industry that most definitely carries a lot of darkness, and constantly pushes the envelope. And whatever it is that you're watching now, you probably won't enjoy in like 6 months from now because it's conditioned to push your envelope. So no, that was never okay. Another question I received was, how do you feel about physical intimacy with people that you are not in a exclusive partnership with? Well, how do I feel about it? I don't like it. I don't like it. It gets really messy. Polyamory, what it's doing to you karmically and energetically, I just don't think it's worth it, but you have free will. And so if that's a lesson you have to learn the hard way, go learn it the hard way. But when you are exchanging these energies, you have to understand that you are taking on some of their stuff. Sexual energy is leaky if it is not well contained in a healthy partnership. Leaky energy creates a lot of openings in our energetic field for us to receive distortion in all areas of life and for us to be leaking energy into areas of life where it doesn't belong. So if you like leaky energy, then it's great. I don't know who would like leaky energy because that means that you are tired and you are on any given day working through shadows that are not yours, but you took it on from a partner who isn't even committed to you. What it's doing for you emotionally is that it is placing this armor over your heart so that you don't feel too much if the person decides that they don't want to be involved with you, because you have a knowing that it's not safe to be all the way in. So you're kind of in, but not really. You have heart armor, and that heart armor is not something that just comes on for you to be with that person. That heart armor stays with you in how you do life. And when you have heart armor, you are not magnetizing the energetic field around your heart that is here to create and bring everything that your holy desire wants for you. So what you're doing is essentially numbing out parts of yourself that are here to work for you, and they're working against you. Now, if you can have the conversation like, hey, we're not like, labeling boyfriend and girlfriend, but I'm not in physical relation with anybody else, then that can allow a little more safety. But it's so important to have a container that is understood and mutually agreed upon and actually feeling good. Like you are not betraying your highest truth. And women do this all the time. They believe that they want to go and have sex like men. And if you are a woman saying, I'm going to go have sex like a man, so feel free, you're actually convincing yourself that you don't have to feel. And sister, it doesn't work because you have a heart womb intelligence that is woven intrinsically to connect with God. And you will just have the energetic hangover after. And you will start to look at man in a light that isn't so good because it's easier than to think that there could possibly be your king out there and you are just not available for it. It's easy to believe, oh, there's no king, so I'm going to play around with the jokers. Don't play around with the jokers. They're literally jokers. And you know what, man, if you're looking for your queen bee, well, how is Beyonce going to show up if you're messing around with Beyonce? She's not, because you are exuding jester or joker energy, and she's out there looking for her king. So really understand how these behaviors of open relationships or polyamory are actually working against the highest truth of what you really want. It takes a moment of honesty, of dissolving that heart armor to say to yourself, this is what I really want. And then you have to sit with your availability and worthiness for it. Do I actually feel worthy? Are there parts of me that are scared? So it's easier to settle for the jester, because when the king shows up, I need to be correct. And I don't know if I'm correct, but I still want to feel wanted. So I'm going to entertain the jester. And the jester shows up all jestery. And then he starts juggling. And you're like, I don't like juggling. I'm here to create a queendom. And that's where you are going to realize that maybe letting the jester in was not such a good idea. He's got the pointy hat, the little balls all over your face. And you're like, little balls all over your face. Oh my God. My imagination is fun. The jester's balls are all over your face. And you're like, I don't want this. I want my king. Then you got to clean up. And the act of cleaning up, it's like that redemption that I was talking about. It requires you allowing your heart armor to come down and asking yourself, like really sit with yourself. Well, what is it that you want? And coming to terms with what you want, coming to terms with the areas of your energetic embodiment where maybe you're not showing up ready for it, or maybe you're not feeling worthy of it. You sit with that, and then you realize that what you want is actually a much more refined version of all of this noise, all of this erotic noise, all of this sexy energy that is actually not sacred sexuality. When it's sacred, it's refined. And when it's refined, it's more potent because it's not leaking all over the place. But of course, we have to be okay understanding that the refinement is not missing. The refinement is not a lack. It's like going down this funnel of what is actually more aligned with your highest truth. And it is more regal. It is what you build their king, queendom with. Jesters, not allowed. You are now in a position to know better. I am waiting for my king. I am waiting for my queen. And in the meantime, I will connect with my inner king and queen. And I will connect that energy to know that in its playfulness and its silliness and however it wants to come out today, it is still going to serve some sort of union and return me to self. From there, it's up to you. Do you feel like yourself with the raunchy lingerie? Have at it, sister. Whatever you do behind your closed doors that is bringing you closer to your queendom, great. If it's bringing you closer to that jester energy, maybe not. It's going to take a lot of work to refine it later. Refine it now. Okay, so that is going to be it for this episode. I wanted to just touch on different questions and weave in and just kind of remind you the power of sacred sexuality. And if listening to this makes you think that you would want to delve deeper into that topic, I actually would love to hear from you all, because there's been some requests to go deeper into this, but I think that would be more like a class. I don't think that that's something that I would put out on the podcast. However, so important. And as the Feminae Christi energy is the one that was the bearer of the sacred sexuality and the reminder of it, and it got silenced, I can see why it was so important to add another episode to this. But I also want to let it be light, let it be easy, but don't be easy. And I'm going to just close this up with a quick prayer and blessing to that energy. I give so much love and gratitude for my listeners today. Gratitude for the curiosity and the questions that arose, and for all those that are desiring to be in their holy desire of physical intimacy and understanding how life force energy is here to create. I ask that any shame around that and how it's been used in the past be dissolved, that they may return to their inner power and restoring of a balanced inner harmony through their life force energy, and be shown areas where it's out of balance, where it's not in its full worthiness, and where it is ready to be elevated so that it may be refined to be able to assist in building the king and queendom within. And so it is, in all space and time, I am. Thank you for tuning in to the Feminae Christi Podcast. Your presence here is the greatest gift. If you would like to help grow this movement and help this energetic container reach more people, it is also greatly appreciated for you to share with anybody and everybody that you feel would benefit from this container. Your likes, comments, engagement also help me to better serve you. I would love to know what lands with you, what you want more of. Until next time, go out there and shine that light.